Hello there, this is Mr. Benji again. In this tutorial, I am going to demonstrate how to approach problems under the heading frequency distribution tables. Now, frequency distribution tables are the kinds of tables that allow you to see the relative frequencies of scores happening. When we use the word frequency, we're describing the number of times a certain score has been recorded. Consider this question. A survey was recently conducted in a secluded neighborhood where, let's just use the example of 20. So just imagine, okay, 20 households. They resided in a certain neighborhood, in a certain block of the neighborhood, and the survey documents the number of vehicles that each household owns. In the following frequency distribution table, X represents the number of vehicles and F the corresponding frequencies. Okay, so let me show you what the results are after this particular survey was completed. So this is what the frequency distribution table looks like. So we've got a column of X, and we will also indicate their relative frequencies. So assuming that there were households with up to 6 vehicles, households with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. These are all possibilities. These are all possibilities that we have seen. Maybe not as frequently with homes owning 4 vehicles or more, but they do happen. They do exist. Now, let's just say that for their relative frequencies, what we saw was these numbers. So from this frequency distribution table that we've constructed, what we're trying to communicate is this. 2 families, they own 1 vehicle each. We've got 2 families owning 1 vehicle in their homes. 7 families with 2, 4 families with 3, 2 families with 4, 3 families with 5, and another 2 families with 6 vehicles. Okay. Now, a couple of concepts involved in the understanding of frequency distribution tables. The first is proportion. And by proportion, we can indicate it with a P. The formula to figure out the proportion is frequency divided by N. Now keep in mind, N, the big N, the capital letter N, we use the capital letter N to denote the population size. Okay? Capital letter N, the population size. And in this situation, the population size essentially is the total of all the frequencies. Well, let's double check. 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 7 plus 2. We get a total of 20, which is the number of households that is indicated in the question. Now, how exactly do we figure out the relative proportions? So the proportions, we crunch the numbers a little bit. Here they are. Here they are. The procedure is to divide the frequency by the N, by the population size. Frequency in this situation, those families who own 6 vehicles is 2. 2 families, as recorded, they own 6 vehicles in their home. So the procedure is 2 divided by 20, which is 0.10. Okay? 3 divided by 20, we get 0.15. 2 divided by 20 again, 0.10. And 4 divided by 20 gives us 0.20. 7 divided by 20 gives us 0.35, and so forth. Do you see? Now, this is not exactly I hope it's not too challenging a concept for us to wrap our heads around. Again, keep in mind, this is part of the procedures, part of the set of skills involved in descriptive statistics. We're describing the situation, and let me make a note here. This column, we denote proportion. Okay? Proportion. Now, there's another way to represent similar information in the form of a percentage. Percentage. And the percentage essentially is to multiply the P, which is proportion, by 100%. It's another pretty straightforward procedure, different way to represent the same information. And in this situation, once you take care of the math right there, you see that the families representing those who own 6 vehicles in this neighborhood of 20 households, they account for 10% of the population. Those who own 5 vehicles, 15%. Those who own 4 vehicles, 10%, and so forth. If in an exam situation you're presented with such a problem, to the instruction, figure out their relative proportions. Well, we're looking at the 3rd column right there. And the 4th column would be the appropriate answer in response to the question or the instruction. Represent their relative proportion in percentage. Okay, I'm just going to quickly make a note here. In percentage. Again, it might seem like I've sped through the process without going through the formulas. Try this yourself. Try this yourself. Essentially, for every of the numbers that I've indicated that I have laid out in front of you in orange, you can do the math using the formula P, proportion, equals frequency divided by N, frequency divided by the population size. And for the percentage representation, the percentage essentially is P, which is proportion, multiply the proportion by 100%. And because we're multiplying by 100%, you can think of the percentage sign as essentially the unit. Well, the percentage sign is the unit for percentage. Okay? Now, another beginning skill in describing statistics is to consider the questions of let's say if the instruction is to find summation of x, total x, right? Find summation of x. Now, if the information around x is not presented in a frequency distribution table, that is, if there is not the need to consider frequencies, the number of times a certain number of x, a certain x equals whatever, occurs in your set of distribution, then the procedure is pretty straightforward. The total x would be, in this situation, the addition of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. Do you see? However, when considering the question, find summation of x, you will need to take into full consideration how many times the number 1, the number x equals 1 occurs. How many times the number x equals 2 occurs. How many times the number x equals 3 occurs. And that information is captured in the frequency. Okay? So essentially what you need to take into consideration here is this is your setup. You are setting up your work in such a way. Summation of x equals one plus 1 2 times, because it shows up 2 times as per frequency. 2 plus 2 plus 2 7 times. Do you see? And so forth. Okay, so this is one way to represent. Another way to represent, of course, is to use multiplication. To show your work as per multiplication, the number of times a certain x equal shows up. In this case, you can do this. You can do 2 times the number of 1, 7 times the number of 2. Do you see? I'm putting the number of times, I'm indicating the number of times, and in parentheses, the x equal. Okay? It's going to indicate the second option there. So those are the two options. And regardless of the method chosen, your total, what you should come up with is 63. Assuming now, rather than finding summation x, the instruction is asking you to look for summation of x squared. Again, here is what you need to pay attention to. It's asking for the total of all x squares. And again, you could set yourself up to go through one of the two methods. The first method, laying all numbers out very clearly. The second method, of course, is to group them in such a fashion. And regardless of what method you use, you should come up with the answer summation of x squared equals 245. Try it. Try it. Now, one word of caution. Do not cut corners. Do not cut corners. If you find out ways, certain expedient ways to maybe use your calculator in getting to the correct answer, the accurate answer, quickly, then so be it. But before you do so, it's not a bad thing at all to go through the longhand of crunching every number slowly, clearly, and carefully. And practice. Again, practice makes perfect. I hope this tutorial helps. Nothing is in the way for you to rewatch this video again and to gain further clarity as well as mastery of the subject matter. More of such will be made available in the foreseeable future. Hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay up to date of quality tutorials that can help you succeed in your studies. You've been watching Mr. Benji at Mr. Benji Now on YT. I'm a college instructor in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Until next time.